Hey y'all, Bloodwing here, back to bring some grumpiness to your internet, and welcome back to Redneck Radio, the live stream where today you get an extra healthy side helping. I know I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again because it's my favorite food of all time: fried potatoes.
Yep.
God, I love fried potatoes. Could eat them every day.
Mhm.
With me today, you know her. She's been on the stream before and is out in the chat often. Maddie, say hello, Maddie.
Hey, hey.
Hey. Yeah, so I am finally back. Yeah, I was supposed to be able to stream all 3 days this week because I had 3 days off in a row.
Yeah.
But out of those 3 days off in a row, today's the only one I actually got off. I got called in Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night to close Tuesday, and turned around and had to be right back in yesterday morning after work closing Tuesday night. I had to be right back in as soon as I dropped my grandkids off for school.
I have been there. I have been there.
And I told them, and you know, it's because, well, our manager hurt her back. So she's been out all week. So we've had to rearrange the schedule, you know, to cover because her assistant managers have to cover her. And then the spots they were going to cover have to be covered.
Yeah.
But I told him yesterday, because there's another new hire. There's a girl that's only 2 weeks, been there 2 weeks longer than I have.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I don't mind helping out. And 99.9% of the time that you'll call me for extra shifts, I'll probably say yes because I need the money. But if you call me tomorrow, I'm not answering my phone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Call Lexi. Ask her.
Yes.
See if she'll step up. I mean, I'm not the only one that can fill your spots. But
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I need at least one day off, guys.
Right? Well, it's like I used to when I worked my first job was at a convenience store job. And I think the only reason I got that was because the person who managed the store was a family friend. So she gave me the job. And let me tell you, do not work for somebody who's known you all your life, especially if they have, you know, a propensity for being a royal bitch, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Because
Hey,
this
Vanilla.
woman,
Sorry.
hey, Vanilla, this woman put me through the ringer up to and including for 2 weeks in a row. She put me on the schedule for 10 at night to 6 in the morning, 7 that same morning to 3 in the afternoon, and then 2 in the afternoon to 10 at night on the third day for 2 weeks in a row, back to back. And
Well,
I'm like, really? This is, I know I'm young, but 16 hours after coming off a night shift with only 1 hour's worth of a break. Are you trying to kill me, woman?
I mean, and that's what gets me. The other new girl, is only 18 years old. She's young. She can do this stuff. I'm the oldest person in the place. It's not even close. Well, there's one other person. One of the assistant managers, just a month younger than I am. She and I, we get along pretty well because we're the same age. I'm like, I was talking to the assistant manager yesterday, and she said, or one of them, not the one that's my age, but the other one, the one that kept asking me to work. I said, Robin, why don't you ask Lexi, you know, because I kind of need a day. Ask her if she'll step up, you know, but yeah, anyway, you know, it is what it is. That's what happens when you work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind picking up the extra money for sure. I can use it. It's just that I had, when I'd seen the schedule and I had those 3 days off, I'd made plans. I thought, oh, I can stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Hey, and yeah, it didn't happen. Didn't happen, but that's okay. That's all right. You know, made a little extra money. And yesterday, reason I had to be in yesterday morning, because usually I just close. And I'm thankful that we're not open overnight, you know, because I wouldn't want to work that. It's scary enough working at night by myself.
Yeah.
I'm since I've been trained, I'm, you know, when you're on a shift, you're the only one there.
Yeah, I've been there too.
So that's a little scary sometimes. And I've had people come in that I'm like giving the hairy eyeball because I don't trust the way they look,
Yeah.
But, closing is 7 or 8 o'clock, depending on the day. We're open till 8 on Fridays and Saturdays. Close at 5 on Sundays. The rest of the week, we close at 7. But I'm usually closing. And then I had to turn right around and be there as soon as I could yesterday morning because they open at 8. But I don't get back in the neighborhood till about 8:15 because I'm taking my granddaughters to school. And, but anyway, I got back. They said, well, okay, that's all right. It was truck order day. They had to put in the truck order, and the girl had never done it by herself before, so she wanted someone there to cover the register while she was doing the truck order.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I come in and covered it for a couple of hours. Hey, Pat. So, that wasn't so bad. Just a couple hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's never too bad. I remember when I went from one store to another store in the same chain, I worked third shift in both stores. Now the second store was in the middle of this really nice neighborhood. Okay. I mean, even had regulations on how high your sign could be from the ground. One of those cities, that don't want signs everywhere. And police officer came in on the way to one of the not so great cities, looked at me, says about 11:30, and he goes, "Don't you mind working third shift?" I said, "Well, I used to work third shift in College Park." And he looked at me and goes, "Oh, you earned your stripes."
Oh, hey, Vanilla, tell Alex to shut up. I don't want to talk to him while he's pooping.
Well, I mean, we can't criticize him too much. He's finally giving a shit.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I'm glad we're not open on the overnights because I wouldn't want to do that. It isn't the hours. I've worked overnights before. I did it for 8 years at FedEx, but working in retail like that, and you're the only one in the shop, it's just a little scary,
Yeah.
And we're literally right next door to a bar. I mean, we actually share a wall with the bar, so which is interesting because I can hear their jukebox thumping most of the night. But J Kid out there to tell like talking to someone whose hobbies out of the ordinary for us. Well, that's true, J Kid. That is true. But I had to come up with something to say that was smart. I like back to it. It's the best I could do on a short notice. Oh, and also apologies. Our furnace has started making a lot of noise, so if it kicks on, you'll probably hear it. And it's cold here where I live. It's in the teens, so Fahrenheit. So it's liable to kick on because my wife just had the door open carrying in groceries while I was talking just now. So, but anyway, so what's going on? Like I was telling you earlier, I haven't been on Twitter much because I've been working, and poked my head in this morning when I got back from taking the girls to school. And geez, I was like instantly regretted it.
Right? It's like the new apocalypse or the new hashtag or the new whatever you want to call it is the hashtag YouTube is over party because they are cracking down with their new TOS for harassment and all this stuff. And there are lots of channels getting copyright strikes and getting complaints and stuff for past videos that were very, very critical of, certain people and on. And it's like I tweeted out earlier on my main Twitter account that I'm just going to wait and see because before I started doing the news, I was one of those people that was, doing the whole anti-SJW thing. And I was a bit cynical and a bit sarcastic and not so diplomatic in my responses, putting it lightly. And besides that, I'm just getting to the point now where I think I'm just burnt out doing the news. It's just.
Yeah. Well, when I logged into Twitter, all I seen was, of course, Orange Man bad. That's always there. and Greta, Time Magazine, blah 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 blah, and
Yeah.
the whole YouTube thing. And I'm like, geez, isn't anybody happy anymore? My gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Jake says, I wish it was still 70 here. I hate this cold. And nope. Yeah, it's I don't know what the temperature is. It's been in the teens, which is, well, for those that don't know, Fahrenheit is well below freezing. Let's see what well, it says it's above freezing now on my phone. It says it's 37 degrees, which is 5 degrees above freezing for
Yeah.
those of you that use Celsius. So
Yeah. It's just gotten here in Texas and Dallas particularly. I want to go outside, look at the heavens, and go pick a temperature and stick to it, please. Because we've gone from cold, wet, and icky to warm and comfortable to a little bit hot to, oh, I'm freezing my ass off. It's like, can you just pick one? Just pick one and just stay there. It reminds me of Georgia. It's like, you don't like the weather in Dallas. Just wait 5 minutes. It's going to get either hot, cold, or somewhere in between.
Oh, we got you beat here. That's the saying here in Indiana, too. I mean, last week it was in the 60s. I kid you not. We had several days in a row in the upper 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And then overnight, it dropped from I think it got up to 50 something that day. And by the next morning, it was 17 or something like that. It's like, yep. Okay. Be careful.
And then it's like, to show the complete lack of, awareness of anything. This person, I quote tweeted this person who was bitching about, I guess, the boots that Wonder Woman was wearing in the new trailer. And she's like, why is Wonder Woman wearing heeled boots? I'm like, she's always worn boots.
Well, yeah.
Heeled boots. It's Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman's actually kind of an interesting story if you look into her creation and how she came to be. The guy that created Wonder Woman was huge into BDSM. He was huge into BDSM.
Yeah.
And he actually had a wife and a mistress who both lived in the same house with him. I mean, you could kind of tell it. You look at Wonder Woman, she's got a rope. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Right.
And bracelets, those bracelets and all that stuff and the high-heeled boots. And like, why are you guys surprised? My gosh.
They don't know. They don't look into it. It's like, it's to kind of borrow a phrase from somebody else's channel whom I watch. They're normies. All they know is from the movies that they've watched, and they didn't notice that she was wearing heels until now. And it's like, she was always wearing heels, and now that they started from World War II and moving up, they're doing this timeline progression, and she's still wearing heels. Now, later on in comic books, they tried to put her in flat boots, but as far as where we're at now in her timeline, she's still wearing heels. And
reminds me of the 70s. There was a time in the 70s, mid to late 70s, where they made a change with Wonder Woman, and the TV show changed as well. You remember the TV show with Linda
Carter? Yep.
Carter. Oh my gosh. There was every boy in the world had certain kinds of dreams about Linda Carter back then. But with the show, she was the classical Wonder Woman when it started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the comics book made a change. They took her out of the scanty costume and they put her in a jumpsuit and took away her powers and made her blonde.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that in the comic books or not, because I'm a little older than you are, Patty, but and made her like this kung fu artist. Well, that didn't last long, but they brought it over to TV as well. They took Linda Carter off, they put this chick in a jumpsuit on. Yeah. That didn't last very long either. A season or two later, they were back to Linda Carter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just, that show was really cool because it was like, not only did you have her traditional thing, but she had her wetsuit, and it's like a suit for every little occasion. All she had to do was spin, so to
Yep.
to transform, which I thought was really cool. Now, the corny show of that particular age, because they didn't have the special effects to do it, was Spider-Man. That was corny as hell.
Oh, that was. I got you one even worse than that, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to address. Cynical Lindsay says Linda Carter still looks gorgeous. Yes, she does. She's a very beautiful woman. Very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I got you one better than that. It was a Saturday morning show.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be old enough to remember it, but maybe you were. Shazam.
Oh, I don't remember the live action, but yes.
Oh, it was a live action Shazam. And oh boy, the special effect. When he was transformed, because you know the story of Captain Marvel, Shazam,
Yep.
Billy Batson yells out the word Shazam and he changes into Captain Marvel.
Yep.
Well, while he was, the flying scenes was just so obvious, the actor on top of a car, being drove around the roads, but he's flying. It was so bad. Now, I watched it. I liked the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it even had a spinoff, a female Isis.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, well, I don't really, Deck, I don't care that Patty Jenkins is third wave. I just like the fact that Gal Gadot is keeping it classy, and every time they try and rope her into talking about identity politics, she goes back to saying that the movie is for everyone who wants to watch it.
Yeah. Cynical Lindsay, no, not the Genie cartoon.
No.
Captain Marvel.
The original Captain Marvel.
Yeah, not this female.
Captain Bitchface.
Which is an interesting conversation on its own, why there are two Captain Marvels.
Yeah, they call him Shazam now. Unfortunately, they stole his name and gave it to her.
Yeah. Captain Marvel actually started out on, was it Carlton Cartoons? Or Carlton Comics, maybe? Anyway, it was one of the old that are no longer around. And when they went out, Marvel jumped in and bought the name, but DC bought the character.
Mm-hmm.
And because Marvel bought the name, they have to label their comic books Shazam.
Yep.
And so the TV show was also labeled Shazam.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. And then you have on the flip side, coming out of Netflix, they're trying to do the same thing with Henry Cavill, and he refuses to fall into that particular category because they keep asking him about quote unquote toxic fandoms, and he keeps saying, I don't consider them toxic, they're just passionate about what they love. Which is true. I mean,
yeah.
all of us have that one thing that we're an absolute diehard fan of, and if you disrespect it, you're going to hear us complain.
Yeah. J Kid says, "Man, Captain Marvel should be in Marvel. DC blows anyway." Yes and no. I do agree. Overall, Marvel has a better lineup than DC, but there are some DC characters I like. My favorite comic book character of all time is a DC character, and that's Spectre. Love Spectre. But they do TV better than Marvel does, but Marvel does movies better.
Yeah,
than DC does.
DC does better animated movies, and well, I can't say they do TV because Supergirl and Batwoman, and just cringe. Ugh. But yeah, but they do the animated stuff really good. DC's really good with their animated universe.
Yeah, and if you don't know who Spectre is, people, he's he's more or less the ghost. They never come right out and say, but there's suspicion that he's the Death Angel. You know, the Death Angel that come out over Egypt in the story of when Moses and the Jews left, all that. But he's an avenging angel-like character, and he didn't arrest bad guys. He turned them into candles and all kinds of stuff. I love Spectre. Only bad thing about Spectre is they eventually overpowered him. during the Green Lantern storyline where Hal Jordan becomes Parallax, and they overpowered the Spectre to where he was like this world killer. And where do you go from that? So they've kind of dropped him for a while, but hopefully they'll bring him back. I always loved Spectre.
Yeah.
What did you think of the No Time to Die trailer?
I haven't seen it yet. I
haven't either.
I have seen the new Ghostbusters trailer, and I actually found some rumored plot leaks for the movie, and I did a video on that. I've seen the Wonder Woman trailer and absolutely loved it, but I haven't seen the new 007 trailer yet.
No, I haven't either. I did see, although I didn't hear, I saw the new Ghostbusters trailer. But I had the sound off. I didn't have my earplugs in when I come across Twitter, but I was watching it and I could get the sense of what was going on. And I have hopes for it because they did, there were a lot of, it looked like there was a lot of shout outs to the original, with the traps and the original car and all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully this will be a whole lot better than that last mess they made. But
yeah, according to the rumored plot leaks, and I keep saying they're rumored because rumored on IMDb, except for the one that is no longer with us, all of the original cast except for Rick Moranis is going to be in the movie. So you got Dana, you got Bankman, you got Ray. You got Winston Zeddemore, Janine, but you don't have Egon because Egon is the one that passed away.
Yeah, you won't be able to have Egon because the actor that played him is gone.
Right. But the gist of the rumors floating around is that house belonged to Egon. And he was doing research on how to open a portal to the spirit world to provide a permanent solution on, putting the ghosts back where they belong instead of continuing to use the containment units. So the old crew is coming back and helping the kids out with finishing Egon's research in order to finally find a solution to all the ghosts. So it's something like that. But they're making Egon central to the story because of his research and what he was doing before he disappeared. That's how they're playing it in the movie, that he disappeared.
Yeah, Pat, hold on a second. Let me, you know me, I can't do two things at the same time.
Yeah. Well, also in the rumors, J-Kid, they have the fact that who's haunting the farm is actually Egon. So they're hinting that we're actually going to see Egon's ghost.
That would be cool.
It would, and it makes me a little apprehensive because they're making this. They seem to be making this a habit, bringing back dead people via CGI. Yeah.
Cynical Lindsay says it looks like Stranger Things Ghostbusters edition, which I really like Stranger Things personally. But I get what you're saying. It's got a lot of kids, and one of the Stranger Things actors is in it, the boy.
Yep.
From what I've seen, but I don't know. I don't know how much it's going to focus on the kids and so forth. As long as they bring back the original crew as much as they can. Like you said, the actor that played Egon is gone, but that would be really cool. I
mean, it's rumor that Janine is now the VP and that it's a multinational Ghostbusters thing. Right. And for those of you that, may not agree, I can see Janine being the VP because in the original movie, she did everything but the actual ghost busting.
Oh, yeah.
She was the office manager extraordinaire. So I don't have any problems with her being the VP. Winston Zeddemore is CEO of the company. So you've got them in very prominent positions in the multi-state company now, which I have no problems with. Because I always saw Winston as the grounding force. You've got the eggheads, and then you've got the everyday guy, and Winston going, guys, can you get your head out of the books for a minute? Because this is what I see.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, yo?
Same old, dude.
I wanted to come here and talk about this whole about the whole Ghostbusters thing because, like, a couple of days ago, I had just saw the I just saw the trailer too, and I'm liking it. I'm kind of like how Monkey is saying, like Monkey and Inquisitor, when they were saying like it kind of had like that, Ghostbusters meet Goonies meet Stranger Things kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. A whole lot of nostalgia. But it's like when I'm hearing like the whole plot of like who's all supposed to be on there, like they're bringing like the original cast stuff like that, except for who played Egon because he passed away. Now, so I'm liking it right now, and so far what I've been seeing on the trailer that it's getting like positive feedback and things like that. You got a handful of SJWs here and there, and of course they're screeching to the rooftops on social media and things like that. But here's my thing right here. Me myself, I know this is going to sound kind of jacked up. I'm hoping that that this version right here is going to be so successful compared to 2016 and things like that for a couple of reasons. Number one, like it's like back then, Sony they gave them what they wanted. You know what I'm saying, the feminists and the SJWs who wanted that female version and things like that. They demanded that, they wanted it so bad, and they gave it to them. Exactly what they wanted. And in the end, what did they give them? About $80 million in debt.
Yep.
Because in that way, it's like they supported it verbally, like how they always do and things like that, but they don't support it where it matters the most, financially.
Yeah.
So with this version right here, where it sounds like they're gonna do exactly what the fans wanted them to do in the first place. I'm hoping that this is gonna come out. People are gonna go watch it and things like that, and it's gonna just blow 2016 out of the water. Just to show them right there, like you can't force people to watch something, and kind of if you don't watch this, you're sexist and all that yada yada whoop whoop and everything, and this right there. But it's give people what they want, and then guess what? They're gonna pay for it financially, and it's gonna show them SJW fools. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel about it. I'm hopeful. I don't know enough about it to be quote unquote excited yet, but I'm hopeful. It looks good.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's a passing of the torch done right, which is something that we wouldn't have had a problem with if that would have happened in 2016. But they just completely crapped on everything in 2016.
Yeah. I mean, if they can get the original crew together, I mean, like we said, Egon can't because he's passed away. Rick Moranis has pretty much gave up on acting because the illness of his wife.
Yep.
And so forth. But if they can get the rest of it, if they can get Bill Murray to show up, because you never know about Bill Murray. He just comes and goes as he wants to.
Yeah, IMDb has confirmed Aykroyd and Bill Murray and the guy who played Winston Zeddemore and Janine and basically the whole original cast minus Rick and Egon.
Oh yeah.
So they're all going to be in the movie, and at one point they are going to all be in the same place, from what I understand from the plot leaks, from the supposed alleged plot leaks, that they're all going to be in the same place at one point in the movie, trying to figure out what it is that Egon is trying to say for them to figure this out. Because remember, back in the first movie, remember the Twinkie guys? That's still a problem they're having in this movie. So they're carrying over an existing problem from the old movie to this movie. The fact that they can't continue these containment units any longer. They've got to find another solution to get rid of the ghosts.
Yeah. Well, Deck Train, the original, was extremely low budget for the time. I think it cost a little over 14 million, which is peanuts for a movie, especially one with as many special effects as that one had. It was. There's actually a very good. There's a show on Netflix. They had a show for a while, the toys that made us, and it goes over like the He-Man toys and the Turtles and all that. But they've got a spinoff now, the movies that made us, and there's an episode on Ghostbusters, the original, which is very interesting. If you like Ghostbusters, I recommend you give it a watch. It's very. And one of the things it brings up is that with Bill Murray, they only had an audible agreement. There was nothing in writing that Bill was going to do the movie. And he did not show up until the day they started filming. And he just shows up on a lot. That's the way Bill is. If you know much about Bill Murray, he is a very interesting character.
It's like I sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that it does it at least some justice. The original, and by extension the second one, which wasn't bad, just wasn't as good as the first one in my opinion.
Mm-mm.
But you know, the amount of money in it really doesn't matter to me because, like I said, the original Ghostbusters was extremely low budget for the time, and especially considering the star power they had in this movie, you know, in the original Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you had some really people that were really big stars at the time. You know, you had Bill Murray, you had Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver had just come off her big, you know, boost in career from Alien and all that stuff. So,
Just like to give us a little more hope, the writing credits they list Dan Aykroyd as writing credits. Jason Reitman, and for those of you who don't know who that is, yes, that is Ivan Reitman's son. Ivan being the original director for Ghostbusters.
yeah.
Harold Ramis is also listed, the dearly departed, as characters were based on or created by Harold Ramis, so he's got writing credits in this too. The actual producer for the movie is Ivan Reitman. An executive producer is listed as Dan Aykroyd.
Well, Dan Aykroyd doesn't. They need to give him writing credits because he wrote the original.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you may not know that. Now, the original script that he wrote was way different than the movie they put on.
Yeah,
and he actually wrote it with his buddy John Belushi in mind and Eddie Murphy. And of course, before he got the script completed, John died, Belushi. Mm-hmm. And they ended up giving Eddie Murphy's part to Bill Murray. So, yeah, it was a very, very different movie by the time it was filmed than what he initially wrote. But he wrote it, and I found this interesting. The reason he wrote it is because Dan Aykroyd's family, his father, his mother, his grandfather, are real big into ghost busting. They're into the supernatural and seances and stuff. And so he wrote the original script as a tribute to his family because he called it the family business.
That's cool. So it's like if you look at 2016, they diminished the role of the office manager. They made Hemsworth look like an incompetent idiot throughout the whole movie, pretty much, until he was possessed. Which really, as somebody who had office jobs as receptionist and some sort of administrative assistant, that makes my eye twitch because we're not stupid. Receptionists, administrative assistant, office managers, we're not stupid. I don't portray us as such because we're not. And then they were like, well, we needed to have a black woman in here and we don't want we don't like them stereotypes. But what do? They casted her as the loud, ignorant black woman. I'm like, way to diminish the original role, which was done by Winston Zeddemore.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just crapping on everything because Winston wasn't stupid. Yeah. Not by any means. He was the anchor. He was the everyday man. I mean, I still remember if there's a paycheck in it.
Yeah. And if you talk to the actor, because they had on that thing on Netflix I said I watched, they talked to Ernie Hudson. And originally he was supposed to have a lot of dialogue. But when Bill Murray come on and he was doing so much good dialogue, they started taking it away from Ernie Hudson and giving it to Bill Murray. And so poor Ernie Hudson ends up with just a few lines basically through the whole movie.
But they ended up being good lines to remember.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If there's a steady paycheck in it, sign me up.
Yeah, and like going back to what you said, Maddie, about how they made old boy like the receptionist and things like that, just like incompetent, just basically like an idiot. I'm kind of wondering, like, if they just basically did that, just because he was a guy in this. I'm saying this movie was way, feminist and all that right there. Just basically like, it's like to crap on the guy, like because he was a guy.
Possibly. And he was blonde too, which really don't say much about blondes, whether they're male or female. Because, I've met a lot of smart blonde people, but to do that in that movie just to make the guy look like an idiot.
I used to be blonde.
It's just it makes you cringe, it makes you groan, especially since they were marketing it as a movie, for one of those it's a girl power movie, you gotta watch this. It's a girl, and I'm like, just market it as a movie. Why does it have to be this? Because from what I saw and from what I heard and all this stuff, it was like just it's not worth it. And it just didn't. The trailers to me were like, yeah, I'm not wasting my money on this.
Yeah. And
but yeah, I'm hopeful that this new one at least does it some justice. I mean, it's a very beloved movie franchise, the original. I mean, it still holds up today. Just last year, I showed it to my grandkids, Mama Minnie's kids, for the first time. They'd never seen it. I showed it to them. They laughed their butts off, and it still holds up today, even with the cheesy special effects, and they are cheesy, and they go into that. If you look really close, you'll see the man behind the curtain, kind of, at the special effects. But they had to do it on such a low budget that they didn't have much choice, and they were basically writing the script as they were filming it. So the special effects department didn't have any chance to catch up. It's like, we need this shot and we need it today.
But how many low budget films have turned out to be films that people have loved and been blockbusters? Because Evil Dead was the same way.
Oh, Evil Dead was really low budget. That was just a couple of college kids making a movie.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like back in 2016, you gotta remember, like, everything that was made and done back in that time and stuff like that was done to appease feminists. And we know back in 2016, as much as we was battling with that type right there, it's like and that's what was the biggest kick in the teeth with them right there. They were trying so bad to appease, all this feminist and SJW demand and things like that it cost them a whole lot. And I'm hoping that this go around, like, they actually listen to the fans, give them what they want, and things like that, and then finally realize, like, all right, this is what we do right here. Listen to them, the people who are actually going to support us financially instead of verbally, and hey, start bringing in the money.
Well, and I've never seen the new one, the newer one. I've never seen it, and I probably never will. I have no desire. But I have read reviews of it, and I've heard people talk about it. And, an all-female cast of Ghostbusters might have worked if they'd have tied it in with the already established universe of the Ghostbusters and made it funny and not pushed the social justice so hard.
Yeah. And now you have there goes my train of thought, totally derailed. Yay for ADD! Oh, shiny moments! Woot! Okay.
From what I've heard of it, it's just really not funny.
No, it's not. It's not. And now you have people complaining and jumping all over Boyega and them for actually coming out and saying that they really didn't agree with what went on in the second, in episode 8.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi, because let's be realistic here. It would have been a way better story and redemption arc if they would have taken Finn from being a stormtrooper to being trained and him turning into a Jedi.
Yeah.
It would have been a more interesting set of movies than what we have now.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of them, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I like the original trilogy, not so much the prequels, but I can watch them. They're okay.
These make the prequels look like masterpieces.
they're all right, except for what's his name, the big floppy-eared doofus. Can't stand him.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. Can't stand Jar Jar.
Me said Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, seriously, can you make a character any more obviously a caricature of a black person? Serious,
No, you can't.
because that's what he is.
Yeah.
That puppers.
Yep, puppers.
But anyway, the only ones of these new ones I watched is the first one where they introduce everything, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and I just kind of lost my interest. Like, I'm just don't know.
Yeah, I watched the second one when it was on Netflix, and I did a video that I had to wind up uploading to BitChute because Disney said, we're blocking this in every freaking country now that you uploaded it to YouTube because we don't like your criticism. Because I made fun of it from beginning to end. Because it was such a trash fire. First of all, she never had a solid reason for leaving Jakku. There's no motivation there. Second of all, every fight scene looked like she was just waving a stick with her eyes closed, hoping she'd hit something.
Well, here's the point where I'm like, maybe not. Like I said, I only watched the first one. Mm-hmm. But the scene where she's strapped in a chair?
Yeah.
And she's received no training whatsoever. And suddenly she's able to use Jedi mind tricks?
Exactly.
I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, that and you have the fight scene and you're like, okay, Finn got his ass kicked by Kylo Ren, but Rey kicked Kylo's butt. No, I'm sorry. No, it doesn't happen that way. A trained soldier can't kick Kylo's butt, but somebody who has never ever picked up a lightsaber in her life can do it.
Because
I know.
Even Luke needed heavy training, or as much as he could get before Obi-Wan died. And then it was picked up by Yoda, to give him further training. But even he needed training. Yeah. And he was the son of Anakin, who was at the time considered, one of the most force-sensitive people in the universe.
Yeah.
And they wonder why we call Rey Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Like, Mary Sue. I argued with somebody the other day when we were trying to come up when the whole subject of the whole Millennium Falcon piloting came up, and then she brought up Luke, and I'm like, he literally said in the movie that this was like flying a T-7 and shooting womp rats at home that weren't much longer than 3 meters, meaning the controls of that X-wing were so similar that he knew how to fly the X-wing, which isn't far-fetched. But he wasn't an ace pilot.
Yeah. And then, which was the killer for me, which is probably the one scene where I just lost interest and I didn't care to watch any of the others, is they killed Han.
Yeah.
When they killed Han, I was like, why? Why? I mean, you don't have to have him in every scene of every movie, but why kill him off?
He didn't want to be in any more of the movies, but instead of killing him off, you could have had him retiring somewhere and not wanting to have any part of it anymore.
I'm like, this is not my Star Wars. Sorry. It must be, I guess it's for the younger generation because it's not my Star Wars.
Ain't mine either.
I stopped at the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I watched the first 3. I loved the first 3, and I watched all the prequels. Kept hoping they'd get better. Was
right.
But of course, with me, it's probably partly nostalgia because I was a teenager, folks, when the original trilogy came out, and I seen them at the movies more than once. And it was just, nobody had ever seen anything like that. It was just fantastic. And it was great. They were great movies. And I was able to see it, in a theater that had Dolby sound and, all this big sound setup and everything. And it just was really cool at the time. So with me, it's probably a little bit of nostalgia. Sure.
Yeah.
Cigar chomping penguin says, I heard Harrison Ford demanded Han's death. He may have. I don't know the way they pulled it off. You know, and he was just such an iconic character, and he was actually my favorite character out of the Star Wars trilogy. Was Han Solo?
Yeah.
You know, like Jesus, it just felt like a smack in the face. Like, yeah, we're not doing your Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, it's they did Han an injustice. They totally screwed up Luke. I'm sorry, but Super Leia, give me a fucking break. Everybody calls her Leia Poppins. I call her Super Leia because when I did the video and it got to that point in the movie, I literally played the Superman theme song. Because that's what it reminded me of when she all of a sudden kind of floated back onto the ship. I'm like, that deserves a Superman theme song, the original one, because that's what it was. Because it was so ridiculous. I mean, you diminish these characters, you make Han Solo look like an idiot. And out of all of them, during episodes 4, 5, and 6, you had Luke's hero's journey. You had Leia learning how to be the hero of the rebellion. And then you had Han Solo's arc, which was basically a selfish smuggler who was out for whoever could pay him the most, to being a part of the rebellion and having friends and caring about his friends. That's a character arc. That's one of the best character arcs in the whole trilogy, in my opinion.
Mr. Dax says, first saw Star Wars, I saw Han Solo as Luke's opposite. Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that, I think that was probably by design. You had Luke, who in the original trilogy was so naive, and innocent,
mm-hmm.
and
almost slept with his sister.
Yeah. and you had Han, who was a man of the world, that wasn't afraid to bend the rules quite heavily if necessary. That kind of, he was the opposite.
Yeah.
Jenkins says everyone should die since they did my boy dirty and treated him as an afterthought. Who was your boy? I don't know. Mr. Dex, naive farm boy versus rugged smuggler. Yeah.
I mean, some people were bitching that, Han couldn't go from, not believing that the Force existed to totally buying into it. Now, how long was he with Luke and Leia? How long and how many things did he see was done by Jedi for him to, still have the stance that the Force wasn't a thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And see, the thing about Luke was, Darth Maul. Yeah. The thing about Luke was, even after he received heavier training through Yoda and all that, and found out that Darth Vader was his father and all this stuff, he still had an innocence about him.
Yeah.
He was the consummate good guy, and from what I understand, I don't know the details, and J Kid was hollering about spoilers earlier, so try not to give any spoilers. So I don't really know, but they kind of made him, they sullied his name, dirtied the character more or less. And I'm like,
they diminished Luke and made him like an introverted, sour, bitter hermit that didn't want anything to do with anybody. And it's just, I didn't recognize the character. And
I mean, sure, that can happen to people, but I would think that if that was going to happen, that would have happened immediately after him finding out that Darth Vader was his father.
Yeah.
If he was going to crawl into a shell and become really skeptical and all that, that's when it would have happened. I mean, how can you have a bigger shock than that? That you find out that the universe's big baddie is your dad.
Yeah. Right? I wanted to put my head through a door when during an interview, Kathleen said, well, we didn't have any material to go on. You have how many freaking novels you could have read? How many stories you could have told? How many sagas? How many people you could have highlighted, and you did this shit?
Yep.
Really? Bullshit. Bullshit, you didn't have any material to draw on. There's novels upon novels to draw on. Books that have been written from the first movie since before the first movie. And you're sitting there trying to tell me you had no canon to draw on. Kathleen, you are an idiot.
Yeah. I don't know. It tends to happen. I always cringe when I see that they're remaking or adding on to movie franchises that I really enjoy, because it's very rare that it ever works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially these days.
Yeah.
It's extremely rare. I mean, like, look at, I love the first and second Halloween movies. I love them, you know, but look at what's come out after.
Right?
H2O and all this stuff right there. And then they're gonna make this remake right here, like, you know, like they're just gonna pretend like what happened in the last one. I'm saying when Michael Myers stabbed Laurie Strode and things like that, and she fell, would pretty much, you know, killed her off and things like that. They're gonna pretend like that just didn't even happen.
Yeah.
They retcon too much.
And Rob Zombie, I love your music, brother. I love your music, but you need to stick to music and stay out of movies. I'm sorry, but it's true.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true. And you know it's true if you've ever seen House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects. Oh, God, they're awful.
Yeah. Well, it's like this recent thing where I said, okay, the Batwoman show is starting. Let me read the comic book. Let me take a look at this. I'm going to review every episode. And it didn't make it past the pilot because I went to watch the second episode, and 10 minutes in, I wanted to put a fist through my monitor. Because it was just that. I don't know how Thrias Unlimited does it without being drunk or on sedatives, because I can't. The comic book is well written. It's very well written. It's very well put together. Has a very solid storyline. And it's like the only thing they took from the comic book for the TV show is the fact that she was a lesbian and that it was set during the time. Her flashbacks were set during the time of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's it. Because everything else is like, did you even read the comic book? And if you read the comic book, who wrote the comic book you read? Because that's not the comic book that I'm seeing portrayed on the TV, because I don't recognize this shit.
I'll be right back. I got to grab some coffee. I'm out. That's not a good thing.
You know, it's like I reviewed the pilot, and I'm like, okay, she's supposed to have all this training. She's supposed to come back early for at least 3 years of training. She's going to go and rescue this person by walking in the front door of the bad person's lair. Who does this?
I don't know.
You know, it's not only that, it was no self-awareness. The combat scenes are absolutely freaking, the fight scenes were horrid. Absolutely horrid. It looked like they put two teenagers in a room that had no idea how to fight and went, okay, just do what they do. That should do it. That should be just fine. And it was just so dumb. I'm like, how did I make it through the pilot? Okay, here comes episode 2. After 10 minutes, I'm like, no.
Well, I've never watched the new Batwoman TV show. I have no desire because I've heard too much about it. I have watched Supergirl, though.
Oh, boy.
And it's tough to get through for me. And the only reason I watch it is because I love the Arrowverse, okay? I do love the Arrowverse. And they have crossovers sometimes. And they'll have a show that crosses over between each one of the Arrowverse shows. So in order to keep up and to understand, I have watched it. But, oh, boy, it's tough. Because they sure like to shove the feminism down your throat on that show.
Yeah.
I stopped watching Arrow when Felicity went full on bitch mode and got pissed off at Ollie for not telling her that he had a kid, when if he did, he wouldn't be able to see his kid again. It's like completely just don't even try and see it from his freaking point of view. And then from then on, it was just, oh, so you get exponentially more intelligent now, I see. Okay,
for quite a while, Arrow was my favorite of the
Yes.
Arrowverse shows.
Yes.
But then Flash took it over, in my mind. Flash, like after what was it, season 2 or something like that, they started getting grittier and darker on Flash, and I was like, this is starting to get better than Arrow. I like this.
Yeah.
And then of course you had what was the show? Legends of Tomorrow, which is just silliness.
Legends of Tomorrow should be renamed Who is Sarah Going to Lay This Episode?
Yeah. I mean, and it's just silliness. It's just silly. I've got some characters I like. What's the name of the guy that has the fire gun? I really like his character.
I don't know who that is.
He keeps his hair cut real short. He's got the fire gun. And he used to be partners with Captain Cold, who got killed off. But
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
But I like his character, and I liked Captain Cold when he was on there.
Yeah.
But because they were interesting characters. But yeah, you're right. It's become the Who is Sarah going to sleep with next show. But.
So we that, and then it's like out of all the story arcs you could have done for Flash.
Thank you, Cynic. Mick is his name. Mick. Yeah.
Mick.
Thank you.
Why did you do the Flashpoint? Like, why? Out of all the stories the Flash has, why do you have to do the time travel crap? Because I just it's like every time they reboot Batman, we need a new Joker. Can we do something different, please?
Yeah, it was a little bit hard to follow, and and if you weren't familiar with the Flashpoint story from the comics, I can see that it would have been really hard to follow. But in my mind, it did help set up some very good stories later on. Like it did help explain who the Black Flash was. Who's in the Speed Force. Yeah, and I'm about to get all geeky on y'all. In the Speed Force, the Black Flash is a huge character because that's why what's his name, the Reverse Flash has to keep on the run because the Black Flash is after him. The Black Flash is there as an enforcer against speedsters that abuse the Speed Force.
Yeah.
And, it did help set all that up.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it so bad. I didn't mind it so bad. I thought that the way that they resolved that, afterwards, how Barry was able to get out of being trapped in the Speed Force was a little lame, but oh well. It's a comic book show, so
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just they started strong to me and then kind of went a little later on down the road because you saw the ideology creeping in. And it's like, can you just leave it out of the show? It's everywhere else. Can we just have a show without you shoving this crap in our face? We just want the show based on the comic books. Don't change it. Don't screw it up. It's the comic book. You have the roadmap. Just go with that. Just, can you please? Thank you. That's all we ask.
Yeah. But I don't know. Of course, Arrow is ending or may have already ended. I watch my shows off of Netflix. So, and they don't show series like that on Netflix until that season is over. Then they'll put it on. But I always, to go back to it, I always cringe when something that I really like, a movie franchise that I really like, they start talking about redoing it or adding to it. I'm like,
this ain't gonna be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Please don't. It never works out.
That's why I say thank God for the original, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example how remakes go, or part 2s and 3s and so on. The original Jaws was a fantastic movie.
Yes, it was.
I don't care who you are; it was a fantastic movie.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely fantastic. And the way they worked around the malfunctions of that mechanical shark are just great. And
Mhm.
yes, like any other movie, you have to suspend your belief a little bit. You know, like the scene where they blow the shark up with by shooting the oxygen tank.
Yeah.
I've seen a show where they've proved that that's impossible. It's
Oh yeah, MythBuster.
well, it wasn't MythBusters, is another show like that.
Oh.
But they actually shot an oxygen tank, and yes, it took off like a rocket, but it didn't explode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But never mind the kind of marksmanship it would take to shoot that while hanging off the mast of a sinking ship in a rocking ocean
Right?
without a scope.
Right.
But it was a great movie, absolutely fantastic movie. And then the second one come out, wasn't so bad, but it wasn't so great either.
And then the third one where the shark was on a vendetta. It's like
And then you get Jaws 3.
3. Yeah.
Oh,
In 3D.
Oh man.
In 3D yet.
One of the worst movies ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh.
To me, it's right up there with the Highlander movie nobody wants to remember. The second Highlander movie where they're like, oh, they were aliens the whole time. And you're like, really? You pulled this out of your ass. You had to have pulled this out of your butt because nobody was like, oh, are they aliens? No. Highlander 1 was great. Highlander 2 was like, okay, what were you guys smoking? What was it spiked with?
Oh, I love the original Highlander. And it had great music. It was scored by Queen.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there was a wrestling scene in there that had the fabulous Freebirds. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And I was into wrestling at that time when that movie come out. So Mr. Dax says, well, if you could go to VATS and use a critical. Oh, the VAT system.
Yeah, the other sequels that weren't all that great, in my opinion. The Save the Whale, Star Trek, and the What Does God Need with a Starship sequel.
Oh, Lord. Vigor? You mean Vigor?
No, this is Star Trek 5 was just what does God need with a starship? When it got to that point of the movie, I'm like,
well,
I've been wondering the same thing.
Star Trek movie series is weird.
Yes.
Because the odd numbered movies are terrible. The even number movies are pretty good movies.
Yeah.
I mean, because you started out with the first one, Star Trek the Motion Picture, and it was like
boring.
Meh.
Yeah.
And then number 2 was Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
Which, I mean, was a good movie.
Yeah.
And then the third one come out, and it was meh again.
Yeah.
But it's kind of not good. But
like
Wrath of Khan is a good movie, and I'll fight you over that. Wrath of Khan is a good movie.
Oh yeah, it was the best one of all the 5 originals, and
yes, Shatner overacted in it, but Shatner always overacted.
He does. I remember watching the motion picture, as I called it when I was a kid, the Never-Ending Story we actually saw it in a drive-through, and the reason I called it the Never-Ending Movie was because I fell asleep. I think I was 7 or 8 when it came out, and I fell asleep in the back seat. It bored me to death.
But Ricardo Montalban as the bad guy, as Khan, my God, it was just awesome. Of course, he played Khan in the original series, which was a very good episode of the original series, and it was just I felt it was an all over good movie.
I was 6. No wonder I fell asleep. I went back and watched the motion picture when I was grown up just to see how it ended, because I couldn't for the likes of me remember how it ended because I fell asleep. And I'm watching the movie, and about halfway through the movie as an adult, I'm going, okay, this is why I fell asleep, because this is boring.
Jake hits DS9 or nothing, and I'm well aware that's his favorite track, and it's probably my favorite too. DS9. I do like DS9. And on Redneck Trek, by the way, I am in the middle of a series of missions that center around DS9. So yeah, there's that. And beyond, while I'm at it, this next episode of Redneck Trek very possibly will be a long one. We'll see how it edits out. But I've got to take an hour and a half of recorded video and make it somewhat palatable. But there's no way that I'm going to cut it down because it's actually a very good. Well, we all know that Renee just died. I can never pronounce his last name correctly. That played Odo.
Oh, that is Renee. I got to look up his name to say it correctly because I can say it. I just have to have the name in front of me, if that makes sense.
But it's a good tribute for him because it does entail changelings.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to cut it up.
No.
Because it won't make as much. It won't make as much sense, and it won't make as good a tribute. So. Bring your patience if you watch this episode of Redneck Trek because it's probably going to be a long one. Just before I edit it up, I'm going to guess that it's going to come out somewhere between 45 minits and an hour long. That's just my guess.
Yeah, which reminds me, I got to add him to my rest in peace list.
Right.
Yeah.
He was also, I forgot, he was Clayton Endicott on Benson.
Yeah.
And he was also the chaplain in the MASH movie he was drafted.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the iconic line in the movie, which he admitted was ad-libbed.
Yep. But yeah, it's probably going to be a long one. I can cut it down, but I'm betting I'm only going to be able to cut out about a half hour or so, and it still makes sense, So we'll see. We'll see. I had a hard time recovering it. It's actually being recorded in 3 sessions. Because the first time I started recording, I forget the game crashed. Crap. There goes that. And then the second time I started up, I messed up on one of the missions and wanted to restart it. But I went ahead and forged ahead. And then I'm in the middle of a space fight, and my wife come out and was trying to tell me something. Well, I had my earplugs in, couldn't hear. While I'm taking my earplugs out and trying to kill, I get blowed up. I'm like, nope. I already did that last episode. I'm not doing it again. I'm restarting this mission. So, yeah, 3 different times it took me.
Well, the morning that it was announced that our version Wa died, I was on the phone with Ronan. See, I can pronounce the name. So, I told him, I said, I don't know if you know this, but Renee something French that I can't pronounce because I haven't had enough coffee yet passed away. That's exactly how I said it. And he started laughing.
Cigar Chomping Penguin says, I'm so far behind on Redneck Trek, it's not even funny. It is on a playlist on my channel. You have no excuse not to binge watch it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Just find a good day where you ain't doing nothing right then, just right there.
Because it's entertaining as heck.
I've looked back at old episodes and I've got so much better. So much better at editing and making it coherent. It was kind of rough when I started. It was a little rough.
I was like, I'm sort of in between what I want to do with, because I am forever going to blame my husband for getting me addicted to 7 Days to Die. That's never going to change. It's his fault. I love you, honey, if you're listening, but it's your fault. And there's 2 things that I want to do with the thing for the Solo Survivor series. One of them is obviously needs props, and that is you're me. I'm on cam, and the longer I last, the more I use effects, makeup, and wardrobe to make it look like I'm battered, beat up, bruised, cut, just warrior, road worn, dirty, and everything. That's the first one. And the second one is Angry Illinois did that to my wife too. The second one is you don't see my face, but I am my Victoria character who is constantly yelling at Meacham, her gnome assistant, because the gate malfunctioned and she was supposed to go somewhere else for a vacation and wound up there instead.
Push button is cool. Sorry I'm late. I was getting some. Slap and tickle over live streams every time. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Wow, chicka, wow, wow. It's always. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm torn in between. And then he's not going to be here today or tomorrow because we're trying to catch up on the bills. Because the Band-Aid Brigade struck again 3 weeks in a row. He had to have his truck put in the shop, which put us behind.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, we were just able to pay the rent yesterday. So that gives you an idea of how far. So he's playing catch up. So once we get that and done, we'll be back to our husband and wifey schedule on Twitch, because apparently people like to hear us flirt with one another even though we're using avatars.
Now, talking about franchises and changing franchises, I've never watched the new Star Trek series. What was it called? Discovery?
Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
Never watched it. I lost all desire to watch it when I first seen how they were portraying the Klingons. I'm like, oh, heck no.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. The Klingons have changed over years. And the original series, you know, they looked a lot different than they do in the Next Generation. And they explained that. There is an explanation for that, of why they look different and yada, yada. But they're not going to go through that much change in that short of time, because from my understanding, Discovery takes place just prior to the original series. In fact, they talk about James Kirk being a cadet at that time. So, but anyway, on Star Trek Online, which is what I record for making my Redneck Trek, you can play Discovery as a Discovery ship in the Discovery timeline.
Yeah.
So I've started a character. I've started playing it. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I like this or not. I really don't, because there's so much different. The Klingons look like they do on that show, which is awful. And even their weaponry doesn't sound the same. You know, when they warp, you get this, instead of getting this, you get a bleep. It sounds like a bubble bursting. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. I'm still going to play through, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, check this out, y'all. I got to go run an errand real quick, but it's like, thanks for having me on.
No problem, Pat. Anytime, buddy.
All right, like, and also, like, to all everybody out in the chat right there, if you haven't yet, you know, check out my Psycho Rick channel. I'm currently at 450 subs right now. Like, right now, what I'm trying to do is before the beginning of next year, I'm trying to at least get it up to 500, since I can reach that 1,000. But I just dropped down a video yesterday, so if you can, you know, go over there, you know, give it a watch, you know, check out my content if you like it, you know, share and subscribe and try to, you know, get me up there. And also, I'm going to be dropping down a video like a little bit after Christmas, talking about all the new changes that's coming on to the channel right there.
Yeah,
so
go
I'll
do
be
it.
Looking forward to all that.
You have no excuse.
Right,
go do it.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, like help me get up to at least 500, man, before January 1st.
Hell, I'm trying to hit 100 on my geek channel. Shit.
All righty, Pat.
All right, I'll see y'all later.
Okie doke.
Take care, dude.
But J Kid out being J Kid. Try driving, Pat. Too cold to be running, buddy.
Yeah.
Son, I hate to tell you, but that sounds like something I would say, for whatever that tells you.
Does sound like a dad joke. No.
But yeah, Mr. Dax is the STD Klingons. Yeah.
It's just, I watched the pilot and that was all, because it was like there was so many things wrong with it, and where it was in the timeline and what they were doing, I'm like, I don't need to pay CBS to keep watching, because it's just going to piss me off.
Well, there is an explanation for why that has been given for why the Klingons have changed looks over the years. Okay, there was a genetic experiment and blah, 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 blah. that happened. And
Yeah.
it's not something that they're proud of, the Klingons.
Yeah.
Because there was an episode in DS9 where they go back in time, visit a space station. It was where the Tribbles story
Yeah, I
happened.
remember that one. I remember.
Yeah. And they see the Klingons there and they go, those are Klingons. And Worf is there and he's like, don't ask.
Yeah. I remember that. He just was not happy.
But to throw these other Klingons in there, the way they look, bald and kind of almost like their face looks like melted wax, people, is what it looks like. That's just too much. It's too much change over a short period, because it's my understanding from playing the game, the discovery happens just prior to the original series.
Yeah.
It's kind of a link between the Enterprise series with Captain Archer and the original series with Kirk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just way too much change in that short a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of 100 years, because that's about what you cover. I don't know, maybe 300 years between Archer and the Next Generation, something like that. And it's just
well, there's so many things wrong with the show in terms of timeline continuity. First of all, they didn't have holographic they
didn't have holodecks.
They didn't have holodecks. They didn't have holographic communications. Hell, they don't have that now.
Yeah.
They're showing technology that wasn't even present in TOS, much less any of the later ones. Now, me and a couple of my friends that used to hang out on a regular basis in my Discord would say, well, if they would have put it after DS9 or even after Voyager, it would have worked. Not before TOS, not before the original series, but later on in the timeline that hasn't been mapped out yet.
That's what I don't get, and this is why I don't like remakes or anything like that. Is why do you got to mess with canon?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Why do you got to mess with canon? And yeah, in the Next Generation, the Klingons look different, but there was groundwork for that, because was it the third Star Trek movie? Is that the one with what's his name playing Klingon?
Yeah. The professor from Back to the Future.
Yeah. It played on Taxi.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Played Reverend Jim on Taxi. I can remember the character's name. I can't remember the actor's name, for Pete's sake.
Join the club.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
But I think that was the third one, and he looked more like they did on the Next Generation. They had started to change the look.
Yeah.
But and I don't care about going back, and there was parts of Enterprise with Captain Archer that I enjoyed, because I enjoyed learning about the prehistory. What happened before? How did we get there?
Yeah. But I was introduced to some of the books when I was married to my second husband, and one book that has always stuck with me because it was just an episode and hilarity in a book. It was called How Much for Just a Planet. It was a Star Trek book. And the Klingons and the Federation landed on this planet that was rich in dilithium crystals. So obviously, you know why both of them want it. Well, while they're trying to do this diplomatic thing, Scotty and a Klingon do a golf tournament in the book. And it's just one hilarious after the other, because the book starts with them on the ship, them ordering breakfast, and breakfast coming out all wrong because the grits are green and they're trying to figure out what Bones is eating. The book is literally, if you guys can find it and you guys like Star Trek, you have to read it. The name of the book, once again, is How Much for Just a Planet. It's great. The book is hilarious.
Yeah. And then you've got this new Picard coming out, and I'm kind of leery a little bit. Now, Picard's not my favorite captain to begin with, but I didn't not like the character, is what I'm saying. He just wasn't my favorite. And with the way things have gone recently, like we've been talking about most of this stream, with remakes and so forth. I'm like, oh, please don't ruin it.
Yeah, they're trying to do it they're doing too many cash grabs. It's just stop.
Yeah, it just yeah. Enterprise was a prequel series. They didn't even show the Romulans, even though they come across the Romulans. They never showed them. In fact, the first time you see a Romulan is during TOS, because the Romulans had not been seen either in TOS until, I can't remember the name of the episode, but until they were finally shown. And then they're like, oh my gosh, they look like Vulcans. Explain this, Spock.
Right? How do these people look like you, but they're so different?
But yeah, it's not that the storyline on the game for Balance of Terror, I think that was the title of it. Yeah, Mr. Dax. It's not that the storyline on the game for Discovery is that bad. It's just there's just enough of the change that's just like, okay, why? Even when a torpedo is launched, you get this bloop sound instead of like what?
Yeah, they changed way too much.
Yeah, I don't know. And of course, there's the whole time travel thing they've tied in, and a few episodes of Redneck Trek back, there was a tie-in. You guys remember the episode that I did when I was in that other reality, which I made fun of because it had everything in it that is bad about MMOs in that one episode. Everything.
Yeah, the search and find, the escort mission.
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. And tell my friend he tried to stream it a couple of weeks after you did that episode of Redneck Trek, and I'm like, I'm warning you, Bloodwings does this already. It's boring. I'm just letting you know now. It's boring. So he goes to stream it, and about 5 minutes in, he goes, oh God, not one of these.
I mean, I've been playing MMOs for a very, very long time. Very long time, folks. Like before some of you probably have been alive, or at least since you were children, and there's just some things that have been done to death that everybody hates. Angry Illinois says, need a new name for a seed in 7 Days to Die. Any ideas? I don't know about 18, but in 17, if it carried over to 18, a good seed for me was always Metropolis. Just one word, Metropolis. You can try using that one. And there's another one, but it's really long, and I can't remember every word of it. Something about Cherokee horse something, which is a really odd seed name for a 7 Days to Die map, but it turned out really well too.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what you guys were talking about, because we're just doing the Navis game thing now, and it was we try this out and we do practice runs, and when there was one I cracked him up with because they always put us at opposite ends of the map, it seems like. Yeah. So he goes, okay, so he saw what I was naming the map because I named it Where Are You? And then he goes, what's the password? And I went, Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. Mr. Dax says my first MMO was City of Heroes. That was not my first MMO, but I alpha tested and beta tested City of Heroes. How's that for a connection?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I loved that game. Sorry to see it go under. If you miss City Heroes, there is a game out by under the same banner, company banner as the Star Trek Online, which is not as good as City Heroes, but it's not bad.
No, it's not bad. It's a nice little in between compromise thing. Yeah. I've played it. It's pretty fun.
It's not bad, but it's hard to recapture that City of Heroes thing.
Yeah.
I remember when they come out with City of Villains, the expansion. and they had a party in game, and the developers were all there. I got to meet all the developers in their in-game character. All these supervillains in their in-game character. It was pretty cool. City Heroes was like that. I mean, it was not unusual to meet one of the devs in game and just sit and talk. It was pretty cool. Yeah, Champions Online is the name of it. It isn't the same, Mr. Dax, but it's not bad. It's just hard to beat City Heroes. It was just perfectly done for a superhero MMO.
Yeah.
It was just hard to beat.
Yep. I mean,
my first MMO, I think, was an old MMO, and I think it's still online. It's very old. The graphics are very dated now, but it was called Anarchy Online.
See, my first MMO, and people are probably going to call me a weeb in the chat, but I will preface this by saying my son introduced this to me, was Mabinogi, which was a Korean MMO. That was my first one. And then from there, I went to Lotro, and then World of Warcraft, which I didn't particularly like World of Warcraft, probably because Ronan was power leveling me, so I didn't have time to get the gist of the lore. But yeah, as a Lotro fan, I absolutely love, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I love playing Lotro.
Jacob says there's a new and improved COH in the making. If that's true, I'm on. I'm down. I'm absolutely down with it because I love COH. The character maker was so great. It was the most Intel character creator I've ever seen. You could make anything that you wanted in City Heroes if you had the imagination for it. Of course, there was always all those people that had no imagination. There was a umpteen million Hulks. There was a billion Wolverines and Supermen and all that.
All the clones.
Yeah. But, oh, man, it was such a detailed character creator. And the way you weren't just dialed into one power set. You could make the hero you want. You mix and match power sets all you wanted. And I remember my first villain, and my main villain was called Dr. Muerto. And he was a mastermind. A mastermind in City of Villains controlled minions. You had 7 minions you controlled. And his was zombies. And I made him look just like his zombies, which people in player PvP hated because they couldn't tell who the mastermind was. Because the way to beat a mastermind, because they were kind of OP, the way to beat the mastermind is kill the mastermind. Ignore his minions, kill the mastermind. And they couldn't tell which one was which because I looked just like the zombies. They hated that. But yeah, if they make a new COH, I'm down. Yeah. And you're right, Mr. Dax. The character creation was so good that people made Superman and the developers got in trouble. They did. And especially with Marvel. They got in big trouble with Marvel because people were making Wolverines and Spider-Man and Hulk and all those, because they had no imagination.
Yeah, I mean, that's because I played a tabletop game called Hero Supers, GURPS Supers, I think it was. No, it was a super show, but I can't remember which one developed it. And I came up with my own character. And it's kind of bad because the guy that was running the tabletop game was like, okay, here's the rules. I'll walk you through on the character creation because it can get a little chintzy in parts. Ask questions, if you're completely confused. And please, for God's sake, don't clone anybody we already know in comic books.
Right.
Because it's no fun when you can tell who the superhero was. Don't do that. I mean, I know everybody's like, well, I want to do this because I've always wanted to be Superman. Well, who hasn't always wanted to be Superman or Batman? Or if you're a woman, Wonder Woman or Black Widow or any of just be original.
I love a game, especially an MMO, but I love any game that has a really robust character creation system. Yeah. Where you can do anything you want. I love that. And I love using my imagination. When I was playing Champions Online, I haven't played it in a while, but when I was playing it, I had a character that his powers were flame based,
Mhm.
but I called him Captain Jalapeno. That was his name, and he had a sombrero and everything. And his backstory is that he was a janitor that loved to eat jalapenos that fed his. He didn't really have superpowers. He just ate a lot of jalapenos, so that's why the fire. And he had a sombrero and all of that stuff. Captain Jalapeno. But
I had a supers in my tabletop game that had chameleon powers, heightened smell and hearing, and could copy fighting styles. And the particular chameleon ability in the tabletop game also came with the ability to, like Spider-Man, stick to walls. So as long as I was still, nobody could see me.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. And then the GM was like, well, if you're going to go off by yourself all the time, you're going to have to pick a different character because you guys are supposed to be acting like a team. I'm like, seriously? You took me 4 hours to make this character. You want me to make another one because you don't like what I made it to do? Jeez, you suck as a GM. Just saying.
My main character on Champions Online, though, was a guy that thought he was Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. He was crazy, and he had escaped from an insane asylum. Okay. But he thought so. His main power was a sword. He had a sword and he wielded it, But he really thought that he was Aragorn. He thought he was Strider.
Oh my God.
And his travel ability, because you get travel powers, was one of those floating discs that you fly on. You stand on it and fly. And he got that. He won it in a poker game. Is how he got it. So yeah, I like using my imagination and making silly stuff, and I enjoy that. That's really why I like a robust character creator. I just because I like to use my imagination.
Well, it's like with me when I used to run my tabletop Shadowrun game, I had one NPC that these guys had to find and hire. He was a smuggler, and they needed his services to get to this particular island to finish their investigation. And I told them, I said, you'll know when you get to the slip of where the ship is, and just be warned. Just be warned why. You'll see when you get there. And so I'm like, okay, everybody roll your checks. All right. First, you hear Margaritaville, an old ancient song, because this is in 2060 something. So, it's back. You hear this old song that to some of you may sound familiar if you have that kind of musical history in your backgrounds. And it was, Margaritaville. So the closer you get, you see that it looks more like a houseboat than a smuggler's ship. And standing on the bow of the ship is an orc with dreadlocks, Bermuda shorts, and a Hawaiian t-shirt and a Hawaiian shirt on. And they looked at me and they went, really? I said, wait till he opens his mouth. And I did the accent. And they're like, he's a Jamaican orc with dreads, a Hawaiian shirt, and Bermuda. How did you come up with this? I'm like, it's called an imagination.
Yeah. I role played the Strider character to the max. Whenever he'd go in and attack somebody, he'd always shout, "For the glory of Gondor!" And the one thing that I do like about Champions Online is you get to create your arch nemesis. You actually get to create them. Once you get to a certain level, and they will attack you randomly with their minions. And you get to pick their power set and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So his arch nemesis was a fellow inmate at the insane asylum.
Oh God.
Who thought he was the Dark Lord. And he was the guy that the reason he wanted to destroy the Strider character is because he was the one that he won the poker game against, and he just wanted his flying disc back. It was hilarious. It just hilarious. I love doing that stuff. I love making people laugh. When I show up in a game and they say, "Oh my God," and they start laughing. When they see my character, I knew I've done it. You wouldn't believe the laughs I get
Oh
from
my
BJ Hickenlooper on Star Trek Online. I cut that out, but you
Mhm.
wouldn't believe the comments in chat and stuff that I get. Oh my God, the hold my beer, really?
Yeah, those are hilarious. I was like, I cried. We had a friend of mine had this idea. We all rolled D&D characters, and we were supposed to be being realistic. Like, so I was a wood elf, so I had never been in the city, so I didn't know what certain things were. And he didn't realize that there were at least 2 or 3 of us in our group of 6 that when we're in character, we're in character. And I'm one of those people that's in character. So here I am with my little wood elf ranger, and somebody else in the group was, I think, playing a fighter or something. The running gag was trying to explain to this elf who had never been in a city nor a farm what a chicken was. Because somebody mentioned a chicken in a campfire, and I went, "What is a chicken?" And about the 3rd time the question came up, the GM went, "Oh God, not this again." I'm like, she's gonna ask until she gets an answer.
Yeah. I like that, and I like games that give you a chance to make a bio on your character, because I'll always put something stupid and hilarious in there
Yeah.
for when people look. I just, I like using my imagination. Hey, Corey, what's going on? But that's just part of the fun of it. Me and J-Kid used to play a lot of MMOs together. We've played several of them together. We played Anarchy Online together. We played Final Fantasy 11 together. We played Rift together. Rift was a pretty fun one. We played for quite a while. I enjoyed it. And I just like using my imagination. I had on Rift, I had I forget what the class was called in that game, but it was a Beastmaster class. You controlled animals, and I had a pig, and I named him Mr. Pig. They call me Mr. Pig. But yeah, that's just part of the fun for me. I like making the things that people don't expect, and they look and they're like, and laugh, But, why so serious?
Right?
But I do love the game. Speaking of games, I just finally, I had it for my Xbox, and I decided to go ahead and splurge because it was really cheap for one of my favorite games of all time, and downloaded it on Steam. I haven't played it yet. It was just prior to the stream. I made up my mind. But it's Saints Row the Third. And I do like that game. So I got that. I'm looking forward to playing it later today. Serious Sam. Oh my gosh, that's an old game. But yeah. But this stream, you never know what we're going to talk about, huh? We've run the gamut. We've talked movies, TV shows, video games,
Comic books.
comic books. Do I have a wish list on Steam? No, I don't. I don't have a wish list. No. I just love games. Unfortunately, my demo laptop, and for all I know, it's probably not going to play Saints Row the Third. It is not the best at playing games. It's not very game friendly. But I do the best I can with it. I have figured out how to play Ark on it fairly well. And but I can't get 7 Days to Die figured out. I'm going to sit down one day and figure out how to. It may look ugly, but I'm going to figure out how to play on 18. So.
Well, there are people that are complaining about the optimization of the game, which could be one of the problems that you have running it.
Oh yeah, well, it's not very well optimized. It's not, and never has been. But with each build, it gets a little worse.
Yeah. And they keep making the zombies smarter and smarter. Zombies aren't supposed to be smart. Zombies are supposed to be zombies.
Yeah. I mean, since when are zombies able to climb ladders? Come on.
And find out what the weakest point of your base is.
Yeah. What game frustrated me the most on consoles? Oh my, I don't know. I'd have to sit and think about it. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah. I don't mind this build either, Angry Illinoisan. The thing is, in the last patch, remember how you could ride your bike everywhere on 0 stamina? Yeah, that's not a thing anymore.
No. Jake His Art, the only game I've ever bought and not even booted up. We're gonna have to fix that, son. You and I are gonna have to get together and play. I think I'm pretty sure I know how to start a private game without having to purchase a server. We'll just have to play through my computer or yours, you know. But yeah, we're gonna have to fix that because I think you would like Ark, at least aspects of it. I think you would. But having said that, I know I broke for a minute a while ago to go get a cup of coffee. Now I've got to go get rid of that cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Okay. How's everybody doing in the chat today? They fixed it. Yeah, they fixed that. And also, too, you're going to have to, even though they say you didn't have to wipe your server and start over, if you go into your 18.1 server with the 18.2 settings, all the trees have 1 hit point. So there's that. So Ronan and I had to start a new server because we're practicing on Scavenger right now because I'm trying to get used to how everything works. And I keep bitching that, cooked food can make you sick, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But, it's a thing. Then I have to deal with it. And then the primitive bow, I can't hit the broadside of a barn with unless I'm less than 2 feet in front of it. And by then, I'm just going to poke it with the spear. So, yeah. Quinn was playing D&D last week, was going great until a person who shan't be named burned some important letters we were delivering to the Capitol. Oopsie! That's not good. Yeah, I used to run Shadowrun 3rd edition. If anybody wondering what Shadowrun is, cyberpunk with magic and orcs and elves and trolls and that kind of stuff in there, and dwarves. So yeah, it's cyberpunk meets D&D basically is what Shadowrun is, and I fell in love with it. I understand the food thing because I think but you have to cook with. Well, my whole thing is, okay, once you cook the meat, you shouldn't have a 4% chance of food poisoning unless it's been there for about a week. I think the main reason they did that is since they're not doing the whole food foliage. Spoon foliage. Wow, that's good. Food spoilage issue. They're just giving you a 4% chance of, food poisoning on most of the foods that you eat, which I think would make more sense if it was a canned food than, your cooked food, because obviously you're going to eat the cooked food first. But nah. The other thing that gets me is chance of dysentery when you drink bottled water. Really? That's the whole reason you boil water is so that you don't get the runs?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. Even in real life, you have a chance of getting food poisoning. Yeah, but I mean, it's just here, depending on how long the food has been around, I would say you get more of a choice of food poisoning from the canned food because canned food doesn't stay good eternally.
Yeah. The thing that blows my mind is you need a recipe for everything.
Yeah.
Now, I get it for some things. Sure, you're not going to automatically know how to build a gun.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Okay. But food, you got to have a recipe for a baked potato, for Pete's sake.
Right.
To make a baked potato.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was a little ridiculous too. Now, I can see needing a recipe for a stew or the blueberry pie. Yeah. Or, even the fish tacos, because I like to say the fish tacos. But, a chili, anybody, if you can't make a chili dog, just how sheltered are you? Really? If you can't make a chili dog, how sheltered are you?
That's okay, Jay Kidd. He says, I wouldn't know how to make a baked potato in a survival situation. The sad thing is, he's right. I will confirm this. But that is a very good reason. If the zombie apocalypse ever hits in a survivalist situation, you'll have to keep me alive, so I show you how to cook and so forth.
Yeah. Well, it's like with on 7 days, Ronan does most of, well, he'll say all of. I help him with the base upgrades, but he's the one that gets the stations up and running. He's the one that does the mining. I do the raiding.
Oh, Lord, cynic. How to make a baked potato? Just hand an Irishman a bong.
Oh, God. That's just wrong.
But accurate.
Because it's like we've tried, both of us, putting points in Lucky Looter, but for some strange reason, I'm luckier at finding shit than he is. So I'm the scavenger and raider, and I'm the one that does the sciencey stuff, and he's the one that does the forge and the workbench, and he does the mining. And I love the junk turret. I will say I love the junk turret because that thing has become my best friend when I raid places.
Well, it's not just the cooking. Jay Kitty says supposedly my wife can cook. Can't confirm as yet. However, but I can. I can do more than cook. I could shoot a gun very well. So I'm very good with that, and I know a heck of a lot of life hacks from living 60 years as a redneck with no money.
Right.
So
we would survive a zombie apocalypse. These a lot of these, not all, hashtag not all, but a lot of these millennials would be lost the first time, they went into a Starbucks and couldn't get their precious overpriced coffee.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason in these zombie movies and shows and TV shows where it's the rednecks that have survived. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always the running joke that I always do. Since I'm Cuban, I can make anything float. So, leave it to me. I'll figure out how to make it float if we really got to get away from the zombies.
Yeah.
I've been pulling a semi out of 3 foot. Oh, how'd you get it stuck in the mud, Willie? You're not supposed to be getting your semi stuck in the mud, son. Whooping.
Nope, not supposed to do that.
Nope.
Why would you do that? Oh, and I just spilt hot coffee down the front of me. Isn't that, you can't take me anywhere.
Jay Kidd, keeping you alive in a zombie apocalypse would be nearly impossible with your incredible movement speed.
Well, I move faster now that I've had my surgery. Not a lot faster, but some.
We get him a bicycle. That's what would happen. We get him a bicycle with one of those little small motors. What do they call them? No, not a moped.
Just get me a mobility scooter.
Right?
You're fine.
We'll get him an armored and an electricity powered wheelchair that's a 4x4. We'll work this out, man.
Yeah.
We'll scrap one together. We got this. Papa will be rocking a fully armored and operational and autonomous wheelchair where all he has to do,
just get it a little red wagon, and a red flyer, and pull me in it, and give me a shotgun and pull me in the wagon, and I'll watch your 6 while you pull me. There you go.
Okay. They had a field they had to haul out of. They tried. Oh, it froze. So that explains the mud and the getting stuck. Got it. Yeah.
Oh, well, I have, Jake, is not a chance. I have another skill that you probably don't have, which will be very handy if society breaks down. I can ride a horse.
There you go.
So, yeah, that mobility solved.
Exactly. He's got this. He's got this. And I'll be the medic because, I got all the herbalism books. Yeah. We got this, man. We got this.
Yeah.
I'll run the mess hall and be the medic. We got this.
He says, I'm not pushing you when you end up in a wheelchair. I definitely wouldn't be pulling you in a wagon. Well, yeah, I know this about you. Yeah, I know this. That's where I get the grandkids to push me.
Yeah.
They'll do it.
This is why we motorized the wheelchair and put all-terrain wheels on the wheelchair. See, and we give it the Tim the Toolman Taylor look, and we put a Harley motor. We put a Harley motor on the back of the motorized wheelchair.
Yeah.
With the all-terrain wheels, and he's set.
My grandson Bulldozer, he'll push me. I know he will. And there's a reason why he's nicknamed Bulldozer. A good reason, because that's exactly the way he goes through life. Full speed ahead and sorry for anything in front of him. Brian King says you can ride the horse, but it will be murder to get you on and off and keep you on that horse. Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's been years since I've rode a horse, but I can ride a horse, and I'm no expert, but I'm pretty decent. I've actually rode a barrel racing horse before and put it through its paces. So if you've ever seen that done, you know what I'm talking about. Barrel racers are no joke.
I'm guessing you're cussing, Diesel Dave, because you just now got the notification.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I've seen a few of you mention that you didn't get the notification. It's not my fault. It's YouTube. I'm sorry. I try to let people know. I go on Twitter and, announce it. And I guess I should go into my community tab and announce it there too. But that might be the same thing as the notifications. I don't know how that works.
You got a server, right? You can add everyone in the Discord server.
Yeah, but Discord crashes on me. It doesn't like me anymore.
Oh no!
It crashes my computer. That's why I've not been on there very much in a very long time, because it tends to crash my computer for some stupid reason. J Kid's right. You don't have to be faster than the zombies. You just got to be faster than your friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the on Ark. If you've ever played it, you know that while you're waiting for your game to load in, it'll give like game tips on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the game tips is you don't have to be faster than the dinos. You just have to be faster than your friends.
Oh my God. I had somebody get mad at me one time when I was working in the convenience store because we were talking about kids shows. Now, my kid was a kid at the time, and Barney was real popular, and I didn't like the theme song drove me nuts. And we were talking about it, and she goes, I don't understand.
My youngest was a toddler when Barney was popular.
And she's like, why don't you like the show? I said, first of all, they have the wrong dinosaurs on there. Barney is a T-Rex. Sooner or later, he's going to get hungry, and children are going to start disappearing. She called me morbid, and then the beginning of the next season, she's like, there's 2 new kids on there, and nobody knows what happened to the other 2. See? He got hungry. It's a cover-up. Telling you people this. You don't listen.
Yeah. I changed the words. I mean, a lot of people know this, but I sang the other version of Barney. I hate you, you hate me. Let's tie Barney to a tree.
I did one worse. My kid was walking around. Mom was trying to egg him on to sing it to get on my nerves, the same way I got on her nerves singing Rubber Ducky from Ernie. And so I pulled him over to the side one day and I tweaked the lyrics a little bit. And when Mom said, Paul, sing Barney. And he goes, I love you, you love me. Will you smoke a joint with me? Did you have to? Yes, I did. Now you won't ask him to sing the song anymore.
My youngest child, my daughter, not Mama Minnie, my other daughter, was a toddler when Barney was popular. See, what was one of the others she watched all the time? Because I worked nights, so I was the one home with her during that period. So I had to watch them all. Big Comfy Couch, kid songs, lamb chops. Oh Lord.
Oh, lamb chop.
This is the song that never ends.
Yeah. I remember that. Lord.
Yeah. So about the only one that I didn't mind, of course, was Mr. Rogers. I liked Mr. Rogers. Sue me, but I liked Mr. Rogers even as an adult, and yeah, but some of them others, Barney, Big Comfy Couch, not so much. Hey, who made this mess? You did, you freaking psycho moron.
Why you keep asking the question when you did it, you nitwit.
But yeah, wasn't a big fan.
No.
Wasn't a big fan of that stuff. But she liked it, so I could turn it on. What I would do is turn it on the TV, get her to watching it, and then since I hadn't been asleep yet and had worked overnight, I would take a nap on the couch with her sitting there, and I'd hook my fingers through her belt loops on her pants. And so that if she moved, I knew it. At least that way I could kind of take a nap. You guys are making me feel old. Well, how about actually being old? I mentioned earlier, I work with an 18-year-old girl, and I was having a conversation with her, and we always, the radio's on that play music, and it kind of gives you the sense of the old head shops, sort of, not completely, but it has that feeling about it. I actually had a customer come in the other day and says, I like this place. It feels like the old head shops. Well, I think that's what they're going for. But anyway, a Queen song had been on the radio, and I was talking about Freddie, and how talented he was. And she said, who's Freddie Mercury?
Oh my God.
And I said, well, we're done talking.
Right?
Yeah. There's no more for us to talk about. Head shop, 18, me too. Yeah. You do have to be 18 to come in. I had that argument with my wife because I was talking about you have to be 18 years old to come in my place of business. And she said, well, why? They're selling cigarettes. They sell cigarettes at the gas station. But that's not all they sell, sweetheart. They sell bongs and grinders and power hitters and one hitters and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, you got to be 18 to come in.
Yep. We had there's a shop in Atlanta called the Junkman's Daughter. For anybody that lives in Georgia, they probably heard it. And there are two aspects to this shop. The knick-knack part of the shop where you can walk around and find all sorts of oddities and buy candles and stuff like that. Then the back corner of the shop, which is a bit dark with certain type of lighting, and you got to be 18 or older to go in there because they sell certain paraphernalia in there.
Yep.
So, and that it's its own shop inside the shop. So they don't get in trouble. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's because the first time I had seen that, I didn't know what it was. My friend had to explain to me what that part of the shop was. And all they said was, well, you're not going to be interested in that part of the shop because you don't, blaze. I went, oh, okay, gotcha. And we just kind of walked out and went somewhere else.
Half the gas stations sell pipes and bongs, whatnot. Jenkins says the Haji Marts. Yeah, they do. But if they want to risk that, that's their business. We're actually, where I work, is part of a corporation. It's a chain. So yeah, they don't want to risk that. So it's clearly noted on the front door and all that. You must be 18. It is illegal for you to enter these premises if you're under 18 years old. So yeah, and I can get in real trouble if you do, and I don't catch you. If you look young enough, I'm supposed to card you at the door.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to. If you're 40 or younger, I have to card you at the register. But anyway, it is that time.
Yep.
2 hours has passed, and we're at the end of it. This is the part where I say thank you to the chat. Thank you to everybody that's come out and gave it a watch and supported this channel and this stream with your views and your comments and your chats and all that stuff. Thank you to Maddie for coming on, especially on such short notice.
No problem. If I'm here and I'm available anytime.
Well, I'm always leery because I'll watch Twitter, and I know you've been sick lately in recent times, and I know that there's days that sounds like you're spending time with Ronan, and I would never interfere with that. But is there anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat. That is my, that's the link to my House of Geek channel. I am trying to grow it. Right now it has a whopping 87 subscribers. I'm going to start putting more content on there. Anything from gaming to movies, comic books, what have you is going to go on there. It's my ADD channel, as I like to call it. And when I start doing arts and crafts, there's going to be a playlist for that too. So anything that my main channel doesn't do, that one does. So anything you can geek out on is going to be on that channel.
There you go. There you go. As for me, as far as I know at this moment, but as you've learned, that can change at any time. As far as I know, I am off on Saturday, so there will be a stream this Saturday. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for the episode 22 of Redneck Trek on Sunday afternoon. I don't know yet if I've got to work Sunday. If I do have to work, it will just be slightly later at 6 p.m. instead of 5:30 because I get home in time. I only live 2 minutes away, but once I close the door, I have a lot of other things I have to do before I'm allowed to leave, like count the money, which is kind of important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I usually don't get home till about 5:30. So if I do have to work Sunday, it will still happen. It will just be about a half hour later. So anyway, be on the lookout for that. And again, thanks to everybody for coming out. This channel could not exist without you. I know I say that all the time, but I'll keep saying it because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
This is not mine. This is your channel. You know, I just run it. That's all. But until the next time, till Saturday, get out of my yard.